Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge. This is your latest Manchester United news. It's match day, it's huge. It's Manchester United against Fenerbahce. It's Mourinho against Ten Hag. But we've got a former Manchester United player who will be playing tonight who wants us to lose, called Sofyan Amrabat, who is very angry with INEOS. He's basically slammed them, basically said Ten Hag wanted to keep him, and you need to have a word with Jason Wilcox on why he didn't stay at Manchester United. Is Amrabat right? We'll talk about that. Also, an update, another setback in the injury world involving Mason Mount from Erik Ten Hag. He's been talking. We'll have what he said in his press conference. Also, Christian Erikson as well, and a lot more to get into today on what I think is going to be ultimately a very exciting day. I'm looking forward to this match tonight, and one where Manchester United need to take a step forward, of course. Before we get into that, though, I just want to say happy birthday to Corbin Rayner. He is got a message from his dad saying, can we say happy birthday to him this morning? Happy birthday to you. Also runs a Bradford City YouTube channel called Rayner's Bantams, so check that out. But happy birthday to Corbin. Hope you have a great day from everybody involved with the United Stand, and I'm sure the chat as well. Get involved in the club. I don't know why people are saying, hey, Beth, because this is definitely, I'm definitely not Beth, but you will see Beth later on with Ricky on a 2 o'clock show. Neem says, I'm extremely excited. Let's get into what Amrabat has said then. Obviously, ahead of this big game, he has been interviewed, and he has basically said that Manchester United was the club that he wanted to stay at. Obviously, it was 2 summers in a row where he was made to wait by Manchester United. Of course, the summer that we actually signed him, he almost went on strike at Fiorentina. We didn't get him until the end of August. Took weeks and weeks to do that deal. And then the next summer, having won the FA Cup and started in that game and played well in that game against Man City. I think some people forget about Amrabat is that whether we should have kept him or not, he actually played fantastically well against Man City in that FA Cup final and benched Casemiro, of course. He said, look, I have a special relationship with Ten Hag since I was 20 years old at Utrecht. He wanted to keep me this summer, so I wish him all the best, but not for tonight. I hope they lose, obviously. And he was then asked about why he didn't seal a move at Manchester United this summer. And he said, the only thing I want to say is that you have to ask Mr. Wilcox. Of course, that's Jason Wilcox, technical director. And the story of what happened with Amrabat this summer, and I suppose we should run a poll on this really, is that there was an expectation that he would come back to Manchester United. And I think that, you know, we did leave him. We've got to stop doing this. Should we have kept Amrabat, yes or no? Get involved in the poll if you're watching live. We've got to stop doing this. We did it with David De Gea as well. Oh, yeah, you're staying. Off you go on holiday, you're not staying. And Amrabat, oh, yeah, we might be interested in you. Remember, he was pre-season training on his own in July in Man United shorts. Waited all summer and we didn't do it. I mean, that is our right, but I do think you end up pissing people off. And, you know, it would have cost us about 10 million to get Amrabat, but we chose to go with Ugarte. So look, what are your thoughts on it? As our first news story on the news show this morning, Amrabat basically saying that Ten Hag wanted to keep him, but it was Jason Wilcox who decided not to do that. I think, honestly, I'm quite pro this decision. I know it might be, I don't know what you lot are going to think, but I'm quite pro what we've done here, because so many people wrongly who are Ten Hag out blame everything on Ten Hag in relation to transfers. You know, people are slagging off Ugarte, people are slagging off Xerxes, people are slagging off De Ligt. And what you need to understand is that this is just an example, it's a bit like what Mourinho said yesterday about backing INEOS and giving a manager the time that he didn't get. That's from Jose Mourinho. You've now got Amrabat. I mean, Mourinho knows how Man United works, so I think we should listen to him, really. But in Amrabat, again, we should listen. He is the guy that was involved in that. We can spend the summer deciding whether we think we should keep Amrabat or not. And I remember the polls over the summer, and I think it was always around 60% would and 40% wouldn't. But it's not on Ten Hag, this. Just the same as Ugarte, just the same as De Ligt. We know this summer that decisions were made that not everybody agreed with, because that's the whole point of the structure that's now in place with Erik Ten Hag, Jason Wilcox, Omar Barada, Dan Ashworth, and probably a couple of other people as well. Nothing gets through that committee unless everybody agrees with it. And what you're hearing here from Amrabat is that Ten Hag wanted to bring him back, but Jason Wilcox wouldn't allow it. Now, we don't know why he wouldn't allow it. Maybe, I mean, on a basic level, it could be perceived to be a positive. Because if Glazers are owners that have put this football club into the ground and INEOS are meant to be something different, well, I think the Glazers would have said no to Ugarte and gone for Amrabat because it's cheaper. So if we've chosen Ugarte over Amrabat, who is 5 years younger, but 5 times more expensive, then is that not something that you would want the football club to do? Forget Amrabat or Ugarte, but Amrabat was available for about 10, 15 million pounds at 28. We've spent 60 on a 23-year-old. That's not real. I think the Glazers would always go for the 28-year-old. So we've got INEOS going for the 23-year-old who's more expensive. So in some ways I look at it and go, well, what are we moaning about here? We've actually spent more on a younger player than go for Amrabat, who would have been cheaper. And we know the Glazers would have done that. So I think on that level, I would side with Wilcox and INEOS. But I'd also side with them anyway, because when you get these morons saying, oh, look at Ten Hag's Xerxes signing, another Dutch signing that's going to be a load of shit. But it frustrates because that's not what's happening. There is no transfer that's happened this summer where Ten Hag has gone, go and get me that player. That's all on me. That's not happened at all. And there you have it again with Amrabat. He has a vote, he has a veto, and he had to be convinced about Ugarte. But this summer transfer window is a collective. So if you don't like Xerxes, or you don't like De Ligt, or you don't like Ugarte, you can't just put it at the door of Ten Hag. You've got to put it at the door of Ashworth, Wilcox, Barada. And that's the door I want to put it at. So yeah, I understand Amrabat being pissed off, and I'm sure he's going to be very motivated tonight. But honestly, I'd rather we got Ugarte and spent big money on Ugarte for the future than go for Amrabat, who realistically was okay, good, and bad in his 1 year audition. So I'm not bothered about that. What I would say is, there's another thing you could say. I just wonder whether if Casemiro had gone, Amrabat would probably be still wearing a Man United shirt. And I think that's the other angle. I think it's probably a bit too simplistic to say it was Ugarte or Amrabat, because most people would go with Ugarte. I personally think if we'd offloaded Casemiro, which was part of the plan, we still would have needed another midfielder, and I think that's when Amrabat would have come in. And I think maybe across the summer, Ten Hag has said to INEOS, look, I'd like Amrabat back. I think he's a really useful player for us for the next few years. We need to have a squad, and I would like him. And I think INEOS have said, if Casemiro and Erikson are staying, then we can't do that deal because we want Ugarte. And maybe Ten Hag has said, well, I need convincing about Ugarte because I know what Amrabat's all about. And INEOS have gone through why Ugarte, and Ten Hag has said, yeah, I get it, let's do that. But I think maybe the plan was to get both, but we couldn't offload there, simply. Amrabat was better than Ugarte, plus he's cheaper, says Ralph Milne. INEOS failure. But, you know, I respect what you're saying, Ralph, but ultimately I disagree, because I think the Amrabat option over Ugarte is a Glazer option, and INEOS are doing something a little bit different. But you're damned if you're doing, you're damned if you don't. You can't please everybody. And I said this a few months ago. If INEOS think they're going to be the owners of Manchester United and universally liked, they're not. They're finding out what it's like to manage a football club and run a football club. You will be disgusted. You will be challenged and criticised by some and praised by others. It's just the world we live in. Sometimes takes a year for players to settle in. Amrabat was starting to find his feet. Well, 73% of you are saying that we should have kept Amrabat. We should have kept Amrabat given McTominay was leaving, says Sanel. And INEOS have been crap so far, says Sanel. It could have been Amrabat plus a £40 million player, says top player. Amrabat was decent when he played in his best position, and that was seldom. He was good in the last month of the season when we played regularly. He should definitely have stayed. I'm glad we got Ugarte, though, says Clifford. I think for me, before we move on, I would like to have seen a scenario, and I said this over the summer. I mean, look, the summer was a few months ago, so I might misquote myself a little bit, but we were talking about the midfield roster, and I remember saying I'd like our midfield roster to be Ugarte, Amrabat, Collier, Mainu, Mount, Bruno, and I think I said, keep maybe keep an Erikson. But obviously that meant Casemiro going. We've kept Casemiro against our will, by the way. I know there are people in the chat who like Casemiro, and I want Casemiro to do well, but nobody should be under any illusion that he was not part of the plan. He wasn't. We couldn't offload him. 350k a week, and Saudis weren't interested, so we couldn't get rid of Casemiro. So I think Amrabat would be a Man United player if Casemiro had been offloaded. And to be honest with you, this might be really shocking, but I think Amrabat's better than Casemiro. Right now, in 2024, I think he is, because I think he's more mobile, and I think he does the job better, which is why he played him in the FA Cup final. Would we have beat Man City with Casemiro in that FA Cup final? No. He was bloody dreadful in the last 2 months of last season. We would not have beat Man City with Casemiro in that team. So I'm always grateful to Amrabat. I don't think the club has really given him the praise he deserves. It's a shame this game's not being played at Old Trafford, because his involvement in that FA Cup final was significant, and it changed a lot of people's opinions. And I would have been happy to keep Amrabat as part of our midfield roster, but it would have been for Casemiro going. It wouldn't have been for Ugarte. And that's what I would say. Amrabat also played left back for us. He would have been a great squad player for the Fleiss, says Connor. Well, you know what? Game tonight's going to be really interesting, because we know about Fred and we know about Amrabat, and we know in games like this, they're worth their weight in, not gold, maybe bronze, but they're worth their weight in whatever you want to call it, because they are very, very motivated and hard-working players. So our midfield's going to have to be up against it. And I tell you what, talking about Casemiro, he's got to put a shift in tonight, because if he gets shown up by Amrabat and Fred, that's just more, conversation, is it? Anyway, Connor Franks, thank you very much for your comment there. Sean King says, I just think it's another big mistake by the club. I don't think it is. I might be in the minority this morning. I don't think it's a mistake. I think Ugarte's the right signing and will prove to be the right signing. But I think Amrabat could only come in if Casemiro or Erikson went, and we couldn't get rid of them. So Erikson's doing well at the moment, so you'd say, well, that's not a problem. And we'll talk about what Erikson said to Beth in a moment. Nothing like that. She was in the press conference. But Casemiro, we couldn't get rid of him. And I said this yesterday about Jose. It's still one of the biggest barriers to success at Manchester United. And INEOS can build a new stadium. They can stick with the manager, they can spend money, but until they get rid of players, I think this is one of the biggest sinkers in Man United's success. We cannot get rid of players. Mourinho couldn't get rid of players. Solskjaer couldn't get rid of players. We can't get rid of players. We've been saying get rid of the deadwood for years, and we can't get rid of players. And Casemiro is a prime example of that. How long is this guy going to stay? He's got 2 years left on his contract, and he's on massive money. We pay Casemiro £1.4 million a month. And he's not even a starter. It's, we're stuck. Would you take a draw tonight? And you know what, Dickos? No, I didn't imagine if I'd have said, you know what, dickhead? I won't. No, his name's Dickos24. I will not. I am not taking a draw before the game. However, if we did draw and it was a good game, a part of me would be like, I'll take that. I want to beat West Ham on Sunday. That's the game I want to win out of the two. So if I had to pick a draw and a win, I'd say draw tonight, win at the weekend. Because I'd happily give Mourinho a point as long as it's a good game. It's not the end of the world if we draw this game. There's plenty of Europa League games. It's going to get easier. We're playing all our hard games at the start. So if this game was a 2-2 worldy game, and both teams came out of it, I want to see Mourinho do well. I want to see Amrabat and Fred do well. I don't hold any ill will to any of them. They're not Di Maria, but we need to win tonight. Of course we do. But if it's a draw in a difficult environment, as long as I'm just looking forward to the game. I'm genuinely looking forward to the game. It's very rare that Man United play a team where I'm like, you know what, I'm actually excited about their role in it. I want to win, 100%, always want to win, and I hope we win 4-0. But I do have a lot of respect for Mourinho, and I think the longer the time goes on, the more that respect grows. And, in a way, I have that similar sort of playing respect for Fred and certainly Amrabat. They gave their all for Man United, whether they were good enough? That's up for debate, but they did. So, look, I'm really excited. I'm getting a bit of not goosebumps, but I'm really excited about it. Hope you are as well. Obviously, we'll have all the build up and watch along tonight. Ian O'Connell, hope you're doing well, mate. Legend of the chat. I definitely would have kept him. He played a significant role in the FA Cup final. Pity the fans didn't get a chance to say goodbye. Can't wait for tonight. Absolutely nailed it on every point there, Ian. And Eugene says, Mark, feel like missing my ex today. Mourinho. Yeah, good one. I thought you'd been dumped and divorced there, so that's good news that you're just talking about Jose. Right, let's move on to something else because we can always come back. But very interesting, interview with Amrabat there, and I like that type of honesty. Yes, it's a little bit World Wrestling Federation, but why you're not a Man United player, you might want to talk to Jason Wilcox, because I think too many times in the modern game, it's all kept in-house, isn't it? And as football fans, we're interested. So, it's always great when you get a little bit of insight as to what's going on. And basically what we're getting is that every summer transfer window, whether it was in or out or rejection, had to go through that committee. So if you're happy with our summer transfer business, collectively, you're happy with Ten Hag and the INEOS board. If you're not happy with decisions, well, look, Wilcox, Ashworth, Barada, Ten Hag agreed and disagreed on everything collectively. That's the way it works, whether you like it or not. Let's just go through some stuff from the press conference yesterday. Ten Hag was obviously talking, as well as Christian Erikson. He's spoken about Mason Mount. Now, we've had a bit of an injury setback for Mason Mount. Also, we've got a bit of an update for Luke Shaw on you, but obviously news show, so let's get into it. So, asked about Mason Mount's continued absence. Bit of a setback. He says it's taking a little bit longer than we expected. I think he will be back soon. So, when I throw this to the chat, some of you love a bit of a question. When did Mason Mount get that head injury? I'm thinking Spurs. Was it Spurs where he got the head injury? Because he didn't play against Porto or Villa. So Spurs would be, last weekend was international break. Weekend before was Villa. 3 weeks on Sunday since he had the head injury. So we're looking at easily a month. Easily a month again. Because he ain't going to, I don't think he's going to be back for Chelsea. Surprise, surprise. Yeah. I mean, honestly, the guy's broken, isn't he? And he must be broken emotionally, because you would have Chelsea at Old Trafford. Absolutely. I don't care what I've got to do. I'm going to be fit for that game, because Chelsea fans are laughing at me. They've took £55 million. I've never played. They're absolutely bantering me. I'm absolutely going to be back and fit and ready for that Chelsea game. And he's not. He's not. And that just shows you how broken he is, because even though he would be desperate to play in that game, he can't. His body's just broken, isn't it? It's incredible. And him and Luke Shaw, well, it's starting to become a similar story, apart from Luke Shaw's actually done something in a Man United shirt, whereas Mason Mount is just broken again, isn't he? On Luke Shaw, I'm not 100% sure about this. I think it was MUFC MPB who put it out yesterday that Luke Shaw is back training on the grass. Don't do any jokes about cows and eating. He's training on the grass. What that means is he's not back smoking marijuana or anything. He is literally, in fact, they should say he's back training on the synthetic grass. Well, shut up, Goldbridge, you're a twat. Basically, back training on the grass is basically what Yoro's doing. It's when you've had an injury, you work your way back, you do a little bit of treadmill, and then they say progress to the grass, because football's played on grass. So it will be shuttle runs, individual work, then it will be ball work, etc. And then it will be light training with the team, and then full training with the team. So Luke Shaw is not going to play before Ipswich at the end of November, because it's nearly the end of October now. If he is back training on grass, then he's probably got 3-4 weeks before he's in full training with the players, and then that's got to be monitored. So, yeah, he won't be back until at least the end of November. So there might be £1,000 going to charity, because remember, my bet was when Luke Shaw comes back from this injury, he'll be injured again before Christmas. Well, if he doesn't start playing again till late November, he's only got to stay fit for 3 weeks, and then I'll have to pay the £1,000 to charity, which I'll happily do. But then again, some might say Luke Shaw playing for 3 weeks without getting injured is a bit of a stretch. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that. But Akil says, Shaw must have seen England flag at Carrington and decided to come touch the grass. I'm more excited for Malacia. Shaw needs to be sold. Malacia is getting closer and closer because he was on the winning team yesterday, did a picture. And Agate is a DM. Who is he better than in the Premier League is the objective truth. I'm not, mate. The objective truth is that I don't know what you're doing judging the likes of Agate and Xerxes after a few weeks. Like, how can I sit here and say Agate is a better DM than anybody in the Premier League when we haven't really given him an opportunity to play yet? My question to Ten Hag in the press conference yesterday would have been, when are you going to start playing Agate? Because you've spent £60 million on him and it's now the end of October. But until we start seeing him play games of football, you can't judge him. But it's very, very, very early days. And I don't know why we have these people in our fan base that are so hungry to destroy new signings. You're basically destroying the club you're meant to support. I don't get it. What is it about you sat behind the scenes with no access to Man United that makes you think it's a good idea as a Manchester United fan to sit there, slag off and finish a new signing who you know nothing about, who you know nothing about in training? You're just sat there deciding that you don't like that player and you're going to tell everybody about it and you're going to call him this, that and the other, and then you want to sit there and pretend you're a Man United fan. I don't get that mentality. It's just so logical. I mean, how many times do we have to talk about the likes of Fabinho and Gravenberch who started badly in the Premier League and took months to adjust and then did really, really well? And yet, we're different. I mean, I see Darwin Núñez scoring for Liverpool last night. They've stood by that guy for 2 years. Some of our fans won't stand by somebody for 2 minutes. How embarrassing is that our biggest rival knows how to nurture and look after players when that's what we're meant to be? I don't know what's happened to this fan base at times. I really, really don't. It's like people want us to fail. I don't get it. How have we not had a left back since February? Like, that is nuts and just really bad for any Premier League clubs, says Rory. Patrick says, you can't judge Agate yet. Fans say we should have kept Amrabat, but after his start at the club, we would have said it was a bad idea and he was just alone. And also, it's not about, if you think I'm doing Amrabat versus Agate as an either or, you're thick. Because I don't think that was ever the plan. Ten Hag was on board with Agate. I think Amrabat he wanted because he doesn't like Casemiro. And we couldn't get rid of Casemiro. So, Louis says it's concerning Ten Hag wanted Amrabat and McTominay. Thank you very much for that. So anyway, let me carry on with the injury conversation. So Mason Mount, from the words of Erik Ten Hag, has had a setback. Not back as soon as they expected, but hopefully back soon. And Luke Shaw's going to be a few more weeks yet. So, I mean, Ten Hag did actually speak about injuries, and this is what he had to say. He basically said that on the Europa League, it's complicated. We will deal with it. Players like to play football instead of training. And as long as you've got players enough that you can construct a team and not go into games with big injury risk, then it's best to play games, but more injuries and we're going to be short. So what he's basically saying is that, look, everybody wants to play the games. And obviously the Europa League, there's a lot of games to be played. And if we've got enough players, then you can construct a team. But I don't want to be overplaying players and creating an injury risk because that will leave us short. And we spoke about this yesterday, specifically, funnily enough, again, about the midfield. Having an Amrabat would actually be quite useful at the moment because the only 3 midfielders that we've got travelling to this game are Casemiro, Agate and Erikson. So, yeah, I mean, look, injuries, unfortunately, are not... Well, no, injuries are not going to be an excuse, but unfortunately, we are racking up quite a lot of them. And unfortunately, it's a lot of similar players. I mean, when you look at it, how many players are injured? How many of them players got injured a lot last season? Mason Mount was injured a lot last season. Luke Shaw was injured a lot last season. Harry Maguire, I think, had 2 or 3 injuries last season. Yoro's a new signing, so you can't include him in that. Malacia was injured all last season. So Who else is injured at the moment? Lindelof's just come back from an injury. He was injured a lot last season. Johnny Evans is not able to travel to Fenerbahce. He had a few injuries last season. Casemiro was a bit of a doubt for this game. He had a few injuries last season. So there are a collection of players that, although we moan about injuries, there are a collection of players that pick up these injuries. So that goes back to what I've said before. Until and it's not necessarily about whether you like the player or not, but I said it about Maguire. There's no doubt that over the last 18 months, he's been very reliable when he's played, but he's also picking up more injuries. You'd be moving him on and bringing in a younger centre-back, because it doesn't matter whether he's reliable when he plays. Luke Shaw's very good when he plays, but you'd bin him off for another left-back tomorrow, tonight, now, because he's not reliable. We need to start looking at the squad also in the sense of, it doesn't matter how good you are, I want to look at your availability, because the best talent sometimes is availability. And we always rush to say, get rid of this player, they're shit, get rid of that player, they're shit. But I actually think we need to start looking at players and going, you know what, if somebody offered me £30 million for Mason Mount, I'd take it. Would you? That's really horrible. It's really harsh. And I've just lost 25 million in just over a year. I would take £30 million for Mason Mount now, because this kid ain't never going to be available. By the looks of it, the high chance is he's going to be injury prone for the rest of his time at Man United. And we're giving him £1 million a month. We gave Chelsea £55 million and he is never available. And I feel sorry for him. But to be honest with you, he doesn't feel like a Man United player. I still envisage him in a blue shirt. And I would probably take £25 million for him right now, because it's a failed experiment and we need players that are available. And it is really harsh. It's really harsh. And I hope he can turn it around. I hope Anthony can turn it around. I hope Luke Shaw can come back and stay fit and turn it around. But sometimes you know it's not going to happen and you're just pissing in the wind. We need to win tonight. The team needs it, the fans need it, and the club need it, says Raphael. Thank you very much for your super chat. Trey says, Agate will come good, and some of these so-called fans don't give players enough time to work. Thank you very much for that. Nadeem says, who is Mason Mount? Look, injuries, absences, before we move on to what Erikson had to say. Injury absences are the most frustrating thing, because the player very rarely deserves criticism because it's just bad luck. But on the other hand, from a fan point of view, you can't just sit there and go, I know you've been at the football club for 18 months and you've been injured for most of that, earning £250,000 a week. Don't worry about it. I'm not going to have any comments about it because it's just bad luck. There will be a frustration there. This is a sports results-based business. We are a club in debt. We are failing as a football club in virtually every level that we have standards. And unfortunately, there is a human element, but it's very, very frustrating and it's a mistake. And I feel for Mason Mount and I feel for Luke Shaw. But Man United comes first, and at the moment, they're just deadwood. They're a waste of space, and they're very expensive. And it's very, very frustrating. And the club needs to be looking at it because it reflects really badly on them. Fortunately for INEOS, they can have no accountability because they are not involved in either of those signings or either of the contract renewals. I mean, Luke Shaw got a contract renewal the year before INEOS came in for about 5 years. And Mason Mount came in on a 5-year deal the year before INEOS came in. So their hands are clean. But there are solutions that need to be found. There is no doubt about that. Zion says, I agree we need competition for places, but do you think the competition is fair when one of our wingers has backing from above due to brand reasons? Well, I presume you're talking about Marcus Rashford there. And I have no proof or confidence on whether that's true. I think certain players at the club do wield a lot of power, but whether that's the case anymore, we'll have to wait and see. I certainly think Rashford and others, I would say Bruno as well, and historically other players such as Paul Pogba have wielded too much power at the football club over the years. But hopefully that's something that INEOS are going to change, because it doesn't benefit INEOS, it doesn't benefit the manager, and it doesn't benefit the player. Players should be picked on performance. And as we've already seen this season, we've seen Rashford subbed and dropped. So hopefully those things are going to change anyway. And as I said, I'd be starting Rashford tonight. I thought he played decently at the weekend, and that's all that matters. What happened to Wheatley? He's a potential third striker. And Ahmad, welcome to the members club. You're a legend. Get your badge in. Wheatley's part of the squad. He nutmegged Rashford, didn't he, yesterday? I saw a clip of that. Training FC. Okay, let's just pivot to a couple of other things that was said in the press conference last night. Erik Ten Hag said about a few other things as well. But I want to talk about Christian Erikson first of all. Obviously, Ricky was on the other day. He doesn't want to see Erikson go. Some of you do, some of you don't. He's speaking to the press yesterday in the press conference, asked about his future. He said, look, it's really not up to me when my contract runs out. It's up to the club. When the summer comes, if the offer is there, I will definitely take it seriously. So there are people in the fan base that want us to keep Christian Erikson, but I think Eriksson's answer really exposes the truth. Even if Man United offer him a contract, he doesn't have to accept it. He's even saying it himself. If Man United decide to offer me a new contract, I will seriously consider it. Look, Erikson might not accept it, even if Man United offer it. He might want to go somewhere for the last couple of years. He might have an idea that he wants to go and play in a certain league in Europe. He might have an idea of what he wants to earn. He might have an idea that he wants to play every single game. So what can Man United offer him next year? Because I wouldn't be offering him 150k a week. So I just think people obviously are entitled to their opinion, but Christian Erikson's had a good few weeks. It's October. I would be very worried about Man United if Christian Erikson is playing every week between now and May. I think he's doing a job at the moment, which obviously Johnny Evans is doing as well. But I think longer term, most of us would agree that those types of players, whilst useful, would not be players that you would envisage being part of our next 2 or 3 years in the first team. So I just think utilise the relationship as much as you can at the moment. He's a Man United player until June, and he's one of our better players at the moment. I wouldn't be in any rush to give him a contract, and even if we do, he might not accept it anyway. So I just think the Erikson thing is, there's always an angle, there's always an obsession about this, that and the other. And one thing that this football club has done very badly over the last 10 years is rush to big new contract decisions. I mean, look at Ollie. We never should have given him that contract in the March. We should have waited till the summer. We gave it him in March. Look at Luke Shaw's latest contract. We never should have done that. Look at it. We never should have given Phil Jones a new contract. Should we have given Bruno a new contract in the summer? We're always in a rush to do these deals. And actually, what was it Sir Jim Radcliffe said? We need to walk to the right decision and not run to the wrong one. And look, some people think we ran to the wrong one in the summer, and that already shows that Sir Jim's talking out his arse. But actually, I think in other ways, we did walk. We walked to certain transfer decisions. We walked to keeping Ten Hag. So I would say that most of the time that's what we need to do. We need to just be taking our time, and we don't need to rush on things. Certainly not things like new contracts for players where it's debatable whether we should do it or not. Erik Ten Hag was also asked if he's seen improvement after the FC20 draw. He says, yes, I think I have. The confidence is a big part of that. When you draw or lose, the confidence is down a bit. And when I spoke, it was a draw, but I felt like we'd lost. A draw can be a dross. There's no doubt about that. When asked about Mourinho, he said, look, Mourinho and I won a lot of trophies in the last few years, but if you have to prove yourself every year, and if you don't, you have criticism. We both know that. I'm just so excited about this game tonight. I mean, I don't really know how it's going to play out. Galatasaray won last night, didn't they, 4-3 against somebody, and they're top of the Turkish league. Remind me in the chat who they played. It's very difficult to, as I said in the preview, to sort of put where... I mean, the great thing about the Champions League the last couple of nights is we've seen the top two in the Bundesliga go head-to-head with the top two in La Liga. Granted, both La Liga teams were at home, but you can sort of see where Bayern and Dortmund and Bayern. No, I've just realised Dortmund are not second in the league. Leipzig lost to Liverpool. But basically, you can sort of put Bundesliga up against the Premier League and La Liga at the moment and say that they're not quite as good as the best in the Premier League and La Liga, of course. But with Turkey, it's very, very difficult to sort of understand what level they're at. So I think it's going to be a massive intriguing game anyway, because they've got so many players that we know the names of. But I'm not convinced that the Turkish league is actually that strong. Obviously, Galatasaray are in the Europa League because Young Boys knocked them down there from the Champions League qualifier. But then you've got this edge to the game, which is it's in Turkey. It's always going to be a big atmosphere. It's Mourinho, it's Amrabat, it's Fred. So really, really excited about it. And I think one of the things that hasn't been really discussed is how Man United are going to approach this game. There's been a lot of talk about Mourinho. There's been a lot of talk this morning about Amrabat, etc. And we know they will be highly motivated. But we haven't really spoke about the motivations of Manchester United. Obviously, we've heard from Ten Hag, etc. But how will our players be motivated? There's no chat about Martinez or De Ligt or Rashford or Bruno or Rasmus or Erikson or Agate or whoever's going to play tonight. And I think that's the big thing. The players have just been able to focus this week on their job. And their job, if we go back to Monday, is to step it up. We saw what happened against Brentford. The second half was good. The first half was a bit flat. You've got 2 games. Ideally, we want to win both of them. Certainly want to beat West Ham on Sunday. But we need to see these players stepping it up. And if we watch a game tonight where they're a bit inconsistent again, then the same problem remains. The players have got to step it up for us. We need to see performances where we go and win 3 or 4 games in a row. That's what teams do. You look at someone like Aston Villa at the moment, they're top of that Champions League group with 3 wins. They've just been to Fulham and won really, really well. That point we got at Villa Park looks increasingly better by the game because Aston Villa have had a very good start to the season. But this is what you need to do. You need to go and get 3 or 4 wins in a row. We beat Brentford. Let's win tonight and let's beat West Ham and let's start to build a bit of confidence like Ten Hag says, because that's what it's all about. Kyle says, you know my position on Amrabat. I do. And you wanted Rabiot as well. Where did Rabiot go? Where did Rabiot go? I feel like I should know that one and then I don't. Did he go to Turkey? Where did Rabiot go? No, he was linked with Galatasaray, and I don't think he went there, did he? But where did he go? Marseille. Yeah, went to Marseille. Thanks, everyone. Good feeling for this week. We'll win both, says Andre. I really hope we do. Really, 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 really hope we do win both games. Of course, no Bruno tonight. Shaquille says Bruno is not a leader. He's not stoic enough. Yeah, well, he's not playing tonight as well, which again is another exciting part to it, to see what Man United are at without. I mean, I think that's a great point as well. Bruno, Niall Kane, thank you, says great show. Smash the likes and subscribe. Thank you for everybody who's getting involved by that. Thanks, Niall, for the nice message. But that's another element to this game that's probably not been discussed enough. I think not having Bruno tonight could work one of 2 ways. It will either go really badly, like it did last season when he was injured. Like people might not think he's a great captain or a great leader, but you really saw the impact of not having Bruno in the team last season. So it could go really badly because we've got no togetherness, or it could go really well with a number 10 who in Erikson actually looks after the ball a little bit better. I hope it goes the second way. Because if it does, it doesn't mean Bruno's finished. It means Bruno's got to look at it and go, well, look at that. The fans like that. I would love to see a game tonight where Erikson plays as number 10 and looks after the ball like an Odegaard, and we are really, really, really much better in the final third. Because I think Erikson, if we can get the ball to Erikson enough in that attacking midfield position, then I think if you're Rasmus and Rashford and Garnacho, you could have a field day. And if we did, look, a lot's got to go right for that to work. But if it did work, I think it would be a huge, huge message to Ten Hag and Bruno that this is the sort of number 10 that we need. But he might not play at number 10. He might play Xerxes there. Casemiro captain tonight, says John. Yeah, I mean, look, for me, Casemiro, I like him, but as I said, we wanted to sell him in the summer, and I don't disagree with that. But I think he will be captain tonight, yeah. If we lose, it would be a terrible loss, says Ram. Well, mate, you don't know that. I mean, I don't know whether you're one of them people that wants us to lose because you're obsessed with sacking the manager. But look, we can lose this game. That's why it's exciting. European football is just strange. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. We've been to Turkey in the past. Other clubs have been to Turkey in the past, and it's a tough place to go. They love their football there. The atmosphere will be fantastic. I can't wait. And who knows what could go wrong? I mean, look at VAR last night. I mean, some of the decisions were shocking, even in Europe. You can get sending offs. Casemiro's on the pitch. He could get sent off. So there's all sorts that could go on. But I'm quietly confident that we can build on what we did at the weekend, and that's what we need to do. And as Kevin says, hopefully we don't get any injuries tonight. I hope we play well with or without Bruno and win, says Andy. Did Jose manage Erikson at Spurs? No. Well, I want to say no. 1997. He managed Spurs after us, didn't he? Erikson. Let's have a quick look on the hop. Christian Erikson left Spurs in 2020, so I think he probably did then. Was he? I think they were on the Amazon Prime thing, weren't they? Oh, here we go. Quote from Mourinho. The day I arrived, Erikson told me he wasn't going to sign a new deal. Christian told me the decision was made and there was no way. From that moment, I was just trying to build the team without him. That was the reason why I didn't play him many times. So there you go. There was a crossover, yeah. So basically, Mourinho said that Erikson wouldn't sign a new deal. So that's why he didn't play him, which is, I suppose, quite interesting. Yeah, DK's right. I vaguely remember them talking about it in the Amazon Prime documentary. I tell you what, I hope it comes across. I love life when it's like this. I am absolutely so happy and excited about today. I don't know why. I just think football is the best drug at times. And when this draw was made, I was excited about it. And I know a lot of other people feel like it as well. But football is amazing, and I've had such amazing highs and lows over the years. And I'm not saying that this is in any way, shape or form anywhere near winning a trophy or anything like that. But it's the nicety of football. It's the fact that we have a good history with Mourinho. We're playing him tonight. Amrabat and Fred, of course, as well. There's something on it. You want a game that's got something on it. It's a game where there's jeopardy if we lose. There's reward if we win. There's experiment with no Bruno. There's opportunity for people like De Ligt and Martinez and Agate to show what they're worth. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Tom says, good history. Well, mate, he did manage us to second place and a couple of trophies. Out of the last 10 years, it's Mourinho or Ten Hag as the manager that's, done the best. All right, it's not the standard we want. Look, if you don't want to look forward to it, that's up to you. But I am looking forward to it, very, very much too, very much so. And look, that's an obvious indicator of where we are as a football club. That I'm very excited about Fenerbahce on a Thursday night in the Europa League. That's standards, of course, but we live those standards that haven't been met. Hopefully, we can change that. The only way that changes is through consistency. Anyway, I mean, we've been in the Champions League and we always embarrass ourselves. Like, we need to build consistency, and that starts this week by winning tonight and winning on Sunday, and then beating Chelsea the weekend after. Like, we need to build. And just finally, before I go as well, when you're talking about Wheatley's and Anthony's and Ahmad's and Collier's and Amas, remember we're playing Leicester in the Carabao Cup. Now, I think I've got this right. I think we're playing on Wednesday night against Leicester next week. So I would imagine you will see those players in that game because it's a Carabao Cup game. But yeah, hopefully we'll see a bit of rotation next Wednesday, because I think we do need to be careful. I think if you were playing a version of real life FIFA with this Man United squad or EAFC, a lot of our players, fitness-wise, will be sort of amber. So I think next week we do need to rest a few players as well. Ricky and Beth are in Turkey. So they're going to be putting a video up for you at 2 o'clock to build up towards this. And then obviously from about 6 o'clock tonight, we will be live building up to the game as well. My watch along for an 8 o'clock kickoff. Match reaction, player ratings, very excited. You know what? To all those people who said, I'd rather not be in the Europa League, you'd rather be sat there waiting all week, not doing anything. Come on, let's do it. Thanks everyone for watching. Ger Murphy says, would you sim this game, Mark? If you know, you know. Absolutely wouldn't sim this game. I'd probably sim FC20 at home and lose, but I wouldn't be simming this, no. Take care, everyone. By the way, if you want to get involved in my Manchester United career mode, it's decent this year. I'm really enjoying it. Check it out on my channel. Thanks everyone for watching. Speak to you later. It's going to be a cracker. Stay safe. Have a good day.